sixth and final panel on the sidelines of COP27 here in Sharm el-Sheikh. It's our pleasure to be here today and present you with an ESG digitization panel. We have a very rich and diverse panel of experts. Some of them will be with us live and some of us will be with us virtually. At this point, it would be our honor and great privilege to introduce Wissam, who is here, Wissam Amin from CIB, and she is leading the Enterprise Solutions Architecture at CIB, and she's going to be presenting us with a very short and high-level presentation regarding the ESG digitization at Commercial International Bank. Thank you.
Hi. And you always do what you always did. Well, you will always get what you always got. Albert Einstein said that was the reason why people resist to change. You need to drive it proactively. And when you are in control and in charge, you take the lead. And this was our strategy to start when we start data digitization solution 4 months back. So we will show the gap of our that we faced, and we will show the goals and ESG digitization pillars platforms, and we will take you through our phase 1 scope. Sustainability reporting is crucial for every business. However, the effort in offering digital enablers are limited. Reporting is mostly performed by major organizations worldwide in a manual way. And this is after we got a lot of references from telecom and banking company. Integrating sustainability with the measurement and scoring into business KPIs is on best effort basis. International sustainability framework are not offering full integration capabilities yet. And finally, manual generated reports lower its credibility, which lead us to put our goals to build up a repository platform in an agile way, while in the bank and CBE, in line with the bank, CBE, and government strategy, at the same time to integrate with international frameworks, to improve and automate our data collection and quality and transparency, to support the decision makers, to have insights from flexible reports and dashboards, to build the platform incrementally to benefit from peer learning and ecosystem maturity, and then to consolidate and build up our ESG domain that can be integrated with a different line of business. So we start the phase 1 by implementing our ecological footprint that serve scope 1 and 2 and 3, which cover carbon, water, and land. And then the other phases will be in futures to cover the data portfolio ESG that will cover the climate and environmental risk, to serve not only CIB, but serve our clients and investments by integration also with PCAF. And after that, we will go through integration with our international sustainability framework, such as TCFD and GRI. And this is the most pillars that we covered in phase 1 that serve our ecological footprint. So we can start here by introducing our sustainability management dashboard that represent the consumption summary year over year of our consumption. And you can see here the representation of the different colors that represent in which level we increase the sustainability KPIs in refrigerating leakage or decreasing, and how much we have a renewable energy being used. And this is a dummy demo data. It doesn't represent the CIB real data. And here you can see the emission value for one of our activities. And in the right hand, you can see the activity and sub-activities in detail year over year since we started 2018. And this is another pillar, which is land, and have the same concept and analysis. And this is the most important things for us because this represents a high-level branch insights and the KPIs per branch that represent the sustainability KPIs and how we are more mature branch by branch. And in the lower place, you can find each branch in detail, and each scopes or activities being used. And this is a high-level branch heat map that represent in a maps view the branches that already have a good indicators for sustainability, and the others that need more concentrate and more learning to adapt with the sustainability KPIs. And this is the value of our application, to support and solve the sustainability team to report their reports by having the platforms that give them the ability to report to build their self-service reports, and also to give them the capability to upload files with the Excel sheets that including the consumption, and also give them the facility to add a manual data. In this dashboard for sustainability operation team, it gives them the ability to monitor and track the reports that already published or reports that still in progress. Finally, this is our implementation roadmap. Ecological module, we start with it, and then we will go to a risk module, external framework integration, and after that we will have a full-fledged platform. Our aim is the only impossible journey, the one you never began. Don't wait and start acting.
With the start of a new day, we welcome a new era of sustainable finance, an era led by CIB, a pioneer in establishing an environment-friendly financial system, a bank that works hand in hand with the greatest minds, creating the greatest of innovations, all by integrating our local efforts with our global image, placing a comprehensive set of policies aimed at the environment, human rights, and social development, to become the first financial establishment of the MENA region to advocate for the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. And that's by ending poverty through creating financial equality, offering diversity through gender equality, changing outcomes by taking climate actions, and ensuring air, land and water sanitation by reducing carbon emissions. Furthermore, we constantly create frameworks that represent the core of our ESG commitments to transparency and fairness. A core built to make sure we operate in a sustainable manner that limits our environmental impact. And to promote a green future, we promote green concepts, which gives us great honor to introduce you to our ESG solution. The first module of our system focuses on determining our assets' ecological footprint in 3 different scopes: GHG, land, and water. This helps us get a detailed view of our assets' contribution to the level of emissions in each scope. While for the second module, we get to determine the value of the ecological footprint of each asset within the scope of every branch. And that helps us analyze the generated data to get an insight into our environmental impact. Therefore, keep track of our ecological footprint. All in all, these efforts are dedicated to serving the banking system, benefiting not only our investors, but the community as a whole.
With that, I would like to welcome our panelists to join me on the stage, and then we can begin our panel. Dr. Dalia, Bassem, Amr, So thank you so much. It was very insightful, actually, to have that presentation and to be able to understand a little bit regarding the strategy behind the architecture of ESG digitization in CIB. Mainstreaming ESG data digitization is actually very critical across financial institutions. ESG data, if it's present, actually relies a lot on having accurate data that's reliable and that's coherent. Unfortunately, this has a very big gap in understanding climate-related data, because the data that is there, if it's there, is usually not available, and it's usually not very reliable in terms of the quality and the suitability and the transparency of the data. It's actually very, very essential for financial institutions who are working on their reporting commitments to be able to have accurate data that's reliable, that's credible, in order to inform their decision-making process. So with that, I'd like to open up the panel. We have a very distinguished panel with us today. First, we have Dr. Dalia Abdelader, who is the Chief Sustainability Officer at CIB. Dr. Dalia has had very numerous prominent roles in the banking sector. She's a sustainability FI Banking Board Principles for Responsible Banking, representing the MENA region. And she's on the steering committee representing Africa for the Net Zero Banking Alliance. So without further ado, Dr. Dalia, would you like to have the first word?
Yes, thank you, Nivan.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. And I thank Wissam for the insightful presentation. Let me walk you through the story of the ESG data digitization. As CIB was embarking on integrating sustainability across all its departments, we knew that data is front and center. And as we all know, we always come across these statements that ESG data is a challenge, ESG data is a hurdle. This is on a global level. And we decided to be proactive, because if you want to be serious about and professional about our journey, our commitment to sustainability, we have to do something about it. Even on the IPCC latest report was very clear about the necessity of establishing ESG data that connects finance and science. Without ESG data, we can never proceed ahead with the sustainability journey. Zooming on Egypt, for example, the Egypt's Vision Sustainable Development Strategy mentions data. The Central Bank of Egypt, in its latest guidelines that made sustainable finance mandatory and binding practice, mentioned data. So on a global level, on a national level, data is front and center. Zooming on CIB, as I mentioned, CIB is embracing a very systematic and structured approach to integrating sustainability. We have institutional pillars, from sustainability governance to sustainability frameworks and policies. Third, sustainability systems, strategy, innovation, and advocacy. Within our sustainable finance policy and strategy, data is core. For any institution, in order to embark on sustainability journey, there is a golden triangle: data, digitization, sustainability. Fortunately, this is the competency of CIB. CIB is known for its data and digital competences and sustainability competences. So we have what it takes to build a strong, robust infrastructure for the system integration. And that was the story. This is why we started it, and why we took, because in our strategy, we are very much determined to be a global trendsetter. Because, I mean, becoming a global actor has nothing to do with your size. It has to do with your innovation, with your agile attitude, and your capability. And we're pretty there introducing the ESG data digitization. And I really thank the team who embarked on it. It's very thoughtful. It's we'll come to it later. But that's the story of the ESG data digitization. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dalia. I'd like also now, after these welcoming words from Dr. Dalia, to introduce my other panelists that are on the panel. So here with us in person, we have Bassem Fayet from Boston Consulting Group. Bassem advises on Middle East public and private sector clients on strategy formulation, value creation, and modernize and modernization. And we're very honored to have Besim with us here today. On with us also on the panel physically. With us also on the panel, we have Amr Referi, also from CIB, and Amr is heading the solutions architecture there. He works extensively on data streaming in the CIB's work on digital sustainability platforms for financial institutions. And we had online with us two very distinguished panelists. I think I should wait to introduce them, perhaps when we get the online connection back. Okay, so let us go immediately to a couple of questions. Fantastic. Virtual participants, can you hear us? Could you give us a signal?
Absolutely. I
Okay,
can hear you.
fantastic. I think that's Mark. So let me do the pleasure of introducing Mark. So we have Mark Mostaf, sorry if I'm mispronouncing it,
Perfect.
who's the head of Net Zero Digital Platforms at Atos. And he has 27 years of experience as a leader in international customer-facing IT roles, including Siemens and Atos. The last 2 years, he spent building the digital capabilities to help Atos on their customers' path to decarbonization and net zero. We also have with us.
Hello.
Oh, you're there. Wonderful. This is fantastic. Julia. We have Julia, the GEM Foundation, and Julia oversees the development and management of joint impact model through the GEM Foundation. She is a subject matter expert in measurement and sustainable finance, and she is focusing on finding common ground between the harmonization for digitization and ESG.
Pleasure to be
Okay,
here. Thank you.
thank you so much. And we apologize for the little technical glitch, and we're very, very happy to have you with us now. So perhaps in order to make our virtual panelists feel a bit included, let's start with a question for Mark. So Mark, can you hear me? Yes, I think you can.
Of course, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So maybe you would like to give us a little bit of background about how Atos is providing ESG digital solutions and services. And perhaps could you help highlight how companies and FIs work towards achieving their net zero digital emissions journey?
Sure. So, Atos traditionally is a digital company, a system integrator, an outsourcing company. Back in 2020, we acquired a climate consultancy business called EcoAct, which is the core of what now is our net zero transformation practice, of which where I'm leading the digital platforms part and really bringing that climate know-how, 15 years of climate advisory, offsetting experience, etc., together with the digital pedigree of Atos is really of the key points that we're working on. And yeah, we've already heard from some, it's about measuring, right? It's all about the data. If you don't measure, you can't get anything done. So most engagements that we have with our customers start with the discussion: what do we need to measure in your business to really support your path to net zero? What are your targets? What is the data that we need for that? And we had before that, not all data is always 100% available and reliable. So we introduced a maturity model for the data so that we can start to work with the data for customers where some data is more mature than others. And, in reality, we will always find that, right? And it's important to be able to find methodologies to not wait until you found the last bit of CO2 reporting, But as soon as you have enough data, get insights that allow you to actually start doing something. And yeah, if you don't measure, you don't know where you're coming from, you don't know how you're progressing, you certainly will never know whether you've achieved any targets. I hope that answers your question a bit. Can't hear you at the moment.
Maybe the connection was lost.
Maybe. But you heard me. That's good.
I can hear you. I heard you.
Good.
This is why they didn't allow for virtual meetings at some pavilions because of the lack of quality connection.
Yeah. Well, when it's working quite well. It's just
Yeah. For us, it's working well. Maybe we can put it in the chat. I'm trying to see if I can message.
Is it a proper chat? Oh, private chat, yeah.
to Julia, and maybe we could ask you, how have you been able to, and the GEM Foundation, been able to help FIs mitigate the issue of data gaps and inaccuracy and lack of granularity? Julia, could you hear me? Julia, maybe you could signal.
I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear. Perfect. Did you get the question, or should I go do it? Say it again.
I think I got it. So how is the GEM Foundation helping financial institutions with the data gaps that they're currently experiencing, correct?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yes, definitely. So we at the GEM Foundation, we are working with financial institutions. We've just made an announcement last week that we would be working with 25 financial institutions, and we are doing so by partnering with DFIs and MDBs who want to onboard financial institutions that want to do carbon accounting but do not have the means to do so. The GIM Foundation is basically providing the GIM, or the Joint Impact Model, and also providing training to be able to do carbon accounting in a very easy and a streamlined way. That is what the tool is designed to do, and it's also technology transfer. So this tool has been developed by DFIs and MDBs for DFIs and MDBs. So the quality and the user friendliness is quite high, and we want to work with financial institutions to see what additional data gaps do they experience when they're using the GIM, or even for user friendliness, what can we change to make the tool more easily used by your financial institution. For us, we think that yes, it's really important to start and to measure. As Mark mentioned a bit ago, you really do need to start, even if the data is not perfect, even if you don't have the biggest granularity in your data set, you can at least get a start. You can start with hotspot. Okay, which sectors does your financial institution need to pay particular attention to? And maybe where can you dive deeper in when it comes to engaging with your clients to see if there are opportunities for investing in technology, investing in different ways of doing business so that it can be you can actually reduce emissions and have a large impact in your community. And so that's what we're really excited about, starting to do this type of work with the financial institutions. And the financial institutions themselves are also very excited to be able to be given this piece of technology so that they can already start playing around with it, learning about it, and getting to a place where they can have not only a starting point but also comparable starting point. Because if everybody's using the GIM, then you can compare with others who are also using the GIM, and that can lead to very, very interesting discussions. And we're already starting to see some of those discussions happening. It's very exciting.
Thank you so much. So now we've heard a little bit from most of the technical sides. So I think it would be interesting to go to Bassem from Boston Consulting Group and to look and see how does BCG, as a pioneer and a worldwide renowned strategy and corporate transformation specialists, how do you contribute to data digitization architecture? And perhaps what are some of the untapped opportunities that BCG has helped to actualize?
Thank you for the question, and thank you everyone for the invitation. So just a bit of context for BCG globally, we have two important priorities. One is climate and sustainability, and two is AI. That's pretty much at the global level. The interesting thing about ESG data digitization, it somehow comes at the intersection of the two topics. Maybe AI comes a little bit later in the journey, but eventually this is where we eventually would like to achieve, right? So, and in the back of this, we've been, of course, when COP was announced to be in Egypt, we were like literally on, we did not take a chance for this to step, and we were very committed to become the exclusive strategic partner for COP27, where we've been able to shape a big part of and contribute to the shaping the agenda. And in this context, back to the question, just maybe a few other remarks, right? Number one, this is not obviously a CIB challenge. It's not an Africa challenge. Actually, if you look globally, even with our most sophisticated clients, you're asking the same questions. So everyone is pretty much still starting, let's say, this journey around, how can we make sense of ESG data? And it's for a number of fundamental problems. Number one, data, if available, might not be across sectors that the banks are covering, and if available, also that it's heterogeneous in terms of its accuracy. How much are we able to collect it and make sense of it, and of course also how much are we able to rely on it. So it continues to be a problem. Now, how do we help other financial institutions and other companies, even beyond FI, to solve that problem? The way we do this is basically we take a very, if you will, business-oriented mindset to the problem, right? So first we start, what are we trying to solve for? What is the business use case for which we would like to start building our data architecture around? And we start with this. And of course, in the context of ESG data, there's a number of things for which we can use analytics for. So the idea is to start, where do we want to make the most impact? Where can we start the journey? And we start with identifying the business use case. And then based on that, we start a journey where thinking, okay, what internal data that we can rely on, what external data sources we can collect. And of course, again, it differs from one sector to the other, from one country to another. So we think about, okay, what sources of data we have, whether internal or external, and then we think, okay, how can we manage this data internally, and how we can make sense of it, and then how we're able to visualize it, report it, and make decisions out of it, right? So it's not a matter of just collecting the data and visualize, but also how are we able to link this to decision making. And then there's a layer on the technology front. So what is the technology architecture that we need to have in place? And finally, what are the, let's say, the key strategic enablers that we have to have in place as well? And that includes, very importantly, people, governance, and processes, right? So it's not just, it's not only a data problem, but how are we able to link whatever we're able to get into the business context of a company, so that at the end of the day, this is helping us to drive decisions in how we think about our day-to-day business, how are we looking at our portfolio, where do we decide collectively not to invest or potentially to invest, and so on. So, and this is what we think about, okay, we take a very vertical approach, and where do we want to focus on? We start with the data, then collection, management, reporting, technology architecture, and then the enablers in terms of people, processes, and governance.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bassem. So Mark, maybe we can go to you now, and you could maybe give us a little bit of background on the companies or FIs that you've worked with in the MENA region. What have been some of the challenges that you faced while implementing these solutions so far?
Sure. When it comes to digital solutions, we actually have not had that much engagement in the MENA region yet. We've had obviously a lot of engagement in the wider international field. We have had engagement with some companies more on a climate consulting business, but the challenges are the same whether we look at the technology or not. It comes back to what I think we've heard already quite a few times: the availability of data, and that's not specifically a MENA issue. We find that with all of our customers. If anything, I would say that that topic is probably a little bit younger in the region here, but that really just shows that there is more opportunity for us to help our customers there. So and I don't know how much you heard. It looked like we lost the connectivity a little bit earlier, but for me the main thing is that what each company needs to measure is very specific to the targets of that company. And very important is that you create some kind of a maturity model that you can work with data that has various degrees of maturity. We find that again, not just in the MENA region, but everywhere, because let's face it, all companies have data that is more or less mature, and we can't just wait until every single bit of data has been found and verified. By associating a maturity level with perhaps a risk adjustment, and being able to start to act with data and on data quickly. That's really sort of the main issue that we're finding. And the sooner you start to measure, the sooner you get insights, and the sooner you get insights, the sooner you can act.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mark. So, Dr. Dalia, I'd like to maybe steer the conversation in a little bit of a different direction. And could you give us, from your extensive experience and from the CIB lens, how can CIB work with different partners and different stakeholders, such as public sector, private sector, regional, international peers, MDBs, rating agencies, in order to help establish a more robust ecosystem for ESG data digitization?
Okay, Nivan, prior to answering this question, I need to share with the audience again what this system is about. This system is about, as I said earlier, it's the infrastructure. We have 8 strategy work streams. 5 of them represent lines of business: risk, corporate, retail, financial inclusion, investment. 3 of them are the infrastructure. The ESG data is cross-cutting, and the education and capacity building, and the advocacy. These are 3 cross-cutting work streams, extremely essential for the health and the implementation of our strategy. If we zoom on the, as Amr and earlier Wissam mentioned, if we zoom on the ESG data digitization component, what is it about? It's about our carbon and the ecological footprint. We already issue our carbon footprint since 2018, and now it's the ecological footprint, and we are trend setting in this. But we need to have credible, coherent, consistent, and granular data. So this is one thing. The second thing is our environmental social risk management system. The third thing is measuring the impact of our portfolio, because we report on that as well, whether our lending portfolio, our investment portfolio. The fourth and last is reporting, the integrated reporting on something like 10 frameworks that CIB is part of. So imagine we report to each framework independently, and we go through the tedious process of collecting data. I mean, it's impossible to the comparability, the consistency. So this is an architecture, it's an integrated architecture that will establish a level playing field for all our reporting. It's huge. And I think it needs an ecosystem to do it. I'm grateful that it's being customized within CIB because, again, as I said earlier, CIB has data and digital and AI competences, I would say. But again, we need, because this is a new thing, this is about the alliance between between finance and science. And definitely we're glad we joined forces with PCAF, because again, we cannot do it alone. This is science and we're finance, but we acknowledge that they are important. So joining hands with science, with the emission factors from government, and I think we need to even build the ecosystem. Probably the ecosystem is not yet there. And of course, BCG, I mean, this is something that we need to establish for us to settle on the sector emissions for each sector in Egypt. It does not, I mean, to my knowledge, it's something we need to build. So we kind of build the ship as we sail. But the most important thing is that Commercial International Bank was very proactive on solving a global issue. And it's not only, as Mark said, it's not only a regional issue. It is a global issue. But we need to step in and, I mean, address it, because otherwise implementation of sustainable finance and sustainability at large would be impaired. We will never be there. So yes, it's building the ecosystem as we go. And to make sure once we're there, we'll be very happy to mainstream it across peers in the region, Africa, globally.
Perfect. And it is very clear that in the sustainability journey, that in order for actual real milestones to be achieved, that it has to be collaborative and there has to be a lot of lessons learned and there has to be knowledge sharing. So perhaps maybe Julia would like to tell us specifically for banks that you've worked with in Africa and in the MENA region, what are the issues that you would recommend banks to avoid given your experience in deploying the GEM tool? And what are any areas of specific that you would like to also highlight in that regard? Julia, to you.
Yeah. So yeah, indeed, in terms of sharing information and sharing methodologies with each other, I think that we have done a great job in just listening to what each individual DFI and MDB has developed so far and trying to put it all together in the GIM. As far as the work that we have started with financial institutions, we see that we're really trying to listen to what are the data gaps that they're experiencing. And what we are seeing is that we need to really take a look at the emission factors that are out there and actually cross-reference with several databases so that we can get the best possible result. Furthermore, what we're seeing with banks, not just in the MENA region, but also beyond, we're seeing that this everywhere, is that there is quite a lack of data, even for calculating proxies. So what the GIM is really good at, it can do the scope 3 emissions, but the upstream emissions we are able to do, whereas the downstream emissions, we're finding those are very difficult. And what does that entail? That entails, for example, the use of cars. And this is a very important downstream scope 3 emission where proxies are just not available in the MENA region, but also in other regions as well. The same is true for mortgages. PCAF, as you guys know, the GIM is aligned with PCAF. And one of the asset classes that PCAF mentions that you can report on are your mortgages. And what we're seeing in developed countries is that many financial institutions have the data, they have energy labels that are specific to their country. And so they are able to calculate, what the emissions are associated with mortgages. And that type of information just isn't available yet. And so how can you come up with proxies when that type of aggregate average data isn't really available? So those are some of the difficulties that we're finding when we're actually on the ground trying to apply the GIM in financial institutions.
Perfect, Julia. Thank you so much. So Bessim, maybe if we can go to you, and can I get you to shed a little bit of light on what can Boston Consulting Group do for African banks specifically that would like to begin this journey of transformation? And as leaders in this space, what would be the first steps that they would need to look at, and how would you be able to support them?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So, look, the way we approach this is typically, at least the key question for clients is always where do we start, right? So especially if it's a new topic, they haven't embarked on this before. Again, in Africa, maybe where the problem becomes even more prominent is, of course, less access to data. And what we've worked with, not necessarily in Africa, but in other emerging markets in Latin America, where what we've done is actually we use existing models to get a good enough of a proxy to drive decision making, not necessarily 100% accurate, does not reflect local context, but is 60-70% good enough to start that journey in order to get the wheel going. So I do believe something relatively very we can also do in Africa. And with this, what we typically do, aside from ESG data, what we typically do as management consultants working across the globe is building proprietary data sets and toolkits with which, obviously client encrypted, with which we're able to develop benchmarks and analysis that we are able to bring across to our clients, and we calibrate accordingly depending on the context, the economic setup of the country and what have you. So I think what is more relevant for Africa is obviously some other sectors specifically take more weight versus other countries. So if you think, for example, about agriculture, for example, where data becomes even more difficult to find, and that doesn't have to be the starting point of the journey. It could be a little bit later on, but at least starting with the sectors that structurally look similar to where these sectors exist in other economies, get where data is relatively better available, and then if you would like, project it and calibrate it accordingly to where our clients exist.
Thanks, Bassem. So, Amr, maybe you would like to tell us a little bit about the ecological footprint for CIB. What have been the hurdles? What are the challenges? What are your recommendations for other banks? And then finally, what would be the next milestone for CIB?
Okay. So if I think about the challenges or the hurdles which we have been through in implementing our first phase, I can think about a lot of things, but the biggest problem which we faced is the quality of data. You need to focus more on how to ensure that the data is accurate, how to correlate between data coming from different sources so that you can guarantee that the data entered from one source is not conflicting with others. And also you can deduce from that whether the data needs, data quality needs improvement, or you need to alert the operations team or the team responsible for data input that there is something wrong with the data they are working on. So we have implemented rules in our systems, and the system is proactively capable of identifying data anomalies and can alert the users that there is something wrong with this data, and we can find out how to normalize it and how to get the data right. And if you tell me about what's my recommendation to other banks, so one of the hurdles which we didn't go through, luckily, is the support. So yeah, to be honest, we had the, I'm not flattering, but we had the support from Dr. Dalia and her visionary approach about the importance of ESG data digitization. In the beginning, when I was involved in this project, I was thinking that, okay, we will just be creating some reports and this is the goal of our project. But after listening to what is the goal and how can we have a really integrated system that can enable the bank to improve our sustainability compliance, we started acting differently and we started building our integrated platform, because unfortunately it is not available. So my recommendation to other banks, first, they need to have the vision and they need to have the C-level support. They need to have support from their top management, and they need to focus on data quality, and they need to get the data right from the source and avoid any manual intervention or manual processing of data. The next, sorry, I'm taking a lot of time.
Please.
But I'm enthusiastic about the platform.
Absolutely.
The next phase, as I mentioned, is our environmental and social risk management. And I would also like to show our final goal. My hope is that maybe we can have this platform or this system offering sustainability support for our clients or our investors or anybody in Egypt as a service. So if we build a strong platform, well integrated, we can offer this service supporting our clients. I'm not talking about financial benefit, but I'm talking about how we can be valuable for our clients to help them to be financially and sustainable responsible. Thank you.
Thank you, Amr. It's always nice to hear when someone truly believes with conviction and passion of what they're doing, because it clearly is articulated in the way you've explained it. So I
Thank you.
salute you for that. So Mark, maybe I'll go to you and ask you if you would like to give us closing thoughts. And then I can go to Julia to do the same. Out of respect for you being there virtually, I would like to offer you both the opportunity to give your last closing remarks, thoughts, and perhaps what are your wishes if you had a wish for digitization and ESG for financial institutions before we get to COP28? What would that be?
Thank you for that. Well, the wish really for the future for COP28 is, we said about COP26, it was about setting some policies. COP27 is about getting started. Let's really get started. And the more engagement we have, the more we work together, because we're all on a learning curve here. Well, nobody got the magic bullet here. Let's work together and really get things moving. And as Amber said, automating the data wherever possible, leading to, as Bassem said, using artificial intelligence and machine learning is so super essential, because we're kind of almost too late already. And if we just use our people power, I think it's getting almost insurmountable. I think we do need digital platforms like CIBs, like the stuff that we're doing in Atos, to really accelerate and multiply what we as human beings can do, so that we can actually tackle climate change.
Perfect. Julia, to you. Julia, are you perhaps maybe muted because we can't hear you?
Yes, now it should be working.
Perfect. Loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Yes, well, yeah, thank you so much for having me on this panel. I think it's really great to hear from all the panelists here and the questions that are being asked on the side as well. I think for me, the biggest thing is collaboration, as Mark already mentioned, that we need to work together. We need to bring solutions to the table, because we are running out of time. And indeed, like everybody said, you don't need the perfect set of data to get started. You can already get a very good sense of which are the sectors where engagement needs to happen. And my hope for COP28 is not only to have 25 financial institutions onboarded to using the GIM, but also actually seeing some results. The GIM would help these financial institutions hotspot which regions and which areas need additional engagement with the clients, and then what those engagement strategies actually were, because that's what it's about. It's about already engaging with your clients, trying to see which technologies can they deploy on the ground so that they can be less emitting. If we see some of those solutions already presented at COP28, and how the GIM and many other solutions have helped them identify these are the areas where more engagement needs to happen, I think that would be great, because it would show that the efforts that we're putting in and improving our data quality and starting these journeys are already having an effect, which we so much need at this moment to have to already see improvements on what we're doing, since we cannot no longer wait.
Thank you so much. So I'll start from the panel on the left so that I may give the last word, of course, to Dr. Dalia. So Amr, let me start with you.
Let's, okay. The only thing I want to say is that, as mentioned by everybody here, is the collaboration is the key, and we need to start acting. We need to start working. We don't have to wait till we have a full proper system doing all what we dream of. We need to start small, and we can continue growing till we reach our goal. That's it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Bassem?
So first of all, again, thanks for the invitation. And I think if I reflect on the discussion, I think, and generally speaking, that CIB is definitely leading the way in Egypt on this. And when we were invited to this, I was like, okay, this is interesting, because I mean, you wouldn't expect that topic to be still at the top or as a priority when you think about, in our different discussions with local banks. So I think in this regards, CIB is definitely leading the way. And by COP28, we'd hope to that this could then become the first relevant, case that can be showcased actually in the next COP.
Thank you, Bassem. Dr. Dalia, to you.
Well, since COP27 Sharm el-Sheikh is about implementation and innovation, I'm glad that Commercial International Bank in Egypt already started implementing an ESG data digitization platform addressing a worldwide industry gap. Along the way, till COP28, we hope we'll build the right agile ecosystem, joining forces with BCG, with Atos, CAF, and more to come, because you know your network and you know how to improve this architecture, so that by COP28, this system will be mainstreamed, will start to mainstream among MENA region's African banks. Hopefully, we celebrate by COP28 that more banks have a similar one. I don't know, I'm not into IT. I don't know how realistic is this, but that's my hope. And I aspire that we all join forces to make sure that we become a real global trendsetter, that we serve all financial institutions, because it takes one industry actor to set trends and establish industry practices. So by COP28, hopefully there will be more banks establishing an ESG data digitization system. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Dalia. Thank you to our online panelists. Thank you to our in-person panelists. And we really hope that by the time we are all gathered again in COP28, that we will have even more remarkable transformations to report. It's been a pleasure to be with you today. I've been your moderator. My name is Nivan Mortagi, the Financial Institutions Lead for International Finance Corporation, the private sector lending arm of the World Bank. Thank you and good day.
Thank you, Nivan. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.